Beautiful. I'm so excited to dive in. The astrology of July is truly, and I know that astrologers have been saying this for probably like the last 6 years and maybe even beyond that. But the astrology of this month truly is a really unique astrological experience. And we're going to get into exactly what that looks like. We're going to get into a little bit of nitty gritty. So buckle up. But remember that when you approach something in astrology that doesn't quite make sense to you yet, I feel like that's a sign to like zoom out a little. We don't need to get wrapped up in the nitty gritty if we're still working with the archetypes on a more basic level. So receive the information, but if it doesn't make sense, let me know in the chat after the fact, after the reporting, and we can kind of dive into, or in the comments if you're watching the replay, we can kind of dive into exploring other ways to explain what's going on as well. Because astrology ultimately is a translation of a translation of a translation of this light, right? In tropical astrology, especially. So we're in a phase right now, y'all. These final days of June. We're recording this on June 28th, Sunday, June 28th, and the next 3 days are very pow pow pow. So today Mars entered Gemini, where it will remain until August 11th. June 29th, Mercury stations retrograde in Cancer and it will remain retrograde until July 23rd. But we've been experiencing the shadow already and we'll continue to experience that shadow period into early August. We're going to have a full moon in Capricorn around 7:56 p.m. Eastern time on the 29th. And then Jupiter enters Leo June 30th through July 26th, 2027. So we have a lot of really important astrological shifts happening in a very small stretch of time. And anytime that happens, it can be a little disorienting. Like I said, if that sounds like a whirlwind, it's because it is. It is a whirlwind. It can be a little, it can like take us a second to find our sea legs. And then we're really making some kind of ascent as a collective this month to what I'm seeing as a turning point. And we'll talk more about this because it's really this moment that we're living in together right now is setting the stage for July to be one of the most monumental months of the year. But I would say, like, this is a time period where we're going to look back on this July as like a marker of something big that shifted globally, I would say. And probably also, as above, so below, as within, so without. We'll see it play out on the global, and we'll also notice it in our more personal sphere or in our embodied sphere, or both. So, in addition to the Mercury retrograde that we're going to be experiencing this month, there are two other planets that are going to station retrograde. And because of the intensity, usually like I would break these out into their own slides and we would really talk about the energy, but I can't state less like how it's talking about these pieces of what Neptune and Saturn are up to are not as important as the other things because Neptune and Saturn spend like 50% of their time in retrograde from our perspective on Earth. So we, therefore, have spent 50% of our lives with Neptune and Saturn retrograde. So it's not as disorienting, I don't think, as a Mercury retrograde because Mercury only goes retrograde for a few weeks, 3 times a year. So when you compare that to 6 months, it just doesn't, it's more unfamiliar to our like inner compass. And so in this way, like it's important that Neptune and Saturn are in Aries. It is important that they're retrograde. It does generate like a distinctive reflective quality. It does change the essence and the tenor of how we're working with these planets. But the way that they're engaged in aspect is way more important than like spending a bunch of time talking about these retrogrades. So Now we'll kind of move into transit by transit, but we're going to stack a bunch of aspects together in a moment because what they form all together is really the T. Just checking the chat. So cool that it's aligning in July with America's 250th year, as empires historically do not last longer than 250 years. Yeah, real, exactly, or they change massively. Yeah, such an important reflection. As you'll see, like, I mean, it's almost laughable, the astrology of this month. So we are heading into basically as soon as Jupiter enters Leo, it's square Chiron. Chiron just entered Taurus earlier this month, and it's only staying for a few months. We're basically getting a little sneak preview of what Chiron and Taurus has to offer us, both individually and as a collective. This square is going to peak on July 2nd, but as you can see, it's active for quite some time. The frequency here is like evocative healing. Anytime we have a square or an opposition, there's something edgy about it. It's pulling something out of us. We are pulling something out of it. Like something's being excavated, something's being leveraged, something's being shifted. So I'm really seeing that there's this clear potential to unseat these wounds and actually like excavate them from our being, especially these wounds around the worth of your most radiant expression, like the wounds of making ourselves smaller, of putting ourselves in a box that doesn't fit. This is also about growth through challenge. You think about like, the seed bursting through the husk, like the the pressure and the force that the seedling has to use to like be viable, to like burst through. That's this energy. So I think that the clear opportunity here is to name and claim the true worth of your authentic expression. What does that look like? Journal it out. I'm a service provider. So like one of the things that like I plan to do in this time is really look at like my energy exchange systems, like my revenue streams and how those are feeling. In addition to a lot of other things, but also it's where it sits in my chart. So journaling it out. And then I also have like mirror work. Now, I'm a big mirror work fan, but it's a huge thread with Jupiter and Leo all through this month. And then I'm also seeing glamour magic and warding the body. So, really like creating this stability in your authentic nature. Like I'm seeing the way like this square also gives us like leverage for stability, like on the breakthrough of like whatever that inner tension is, whatever that wound is that comes up for us to heal. What that gives us is something to like brace against for this growth. So then this is what I was like, like with the whole, America's birthday thing. Mars conjuncts Uranus precisely on July 4th. This is something that's been active since, today, June 28th, and it will remain active through July 13th. So that's quite a little window there of 2 weeks where the planet of action, Mars, drive and aggression meets the electric planet of disruption. So here sparks fly. Friction and divine tension yield results. Agitation in the personal sphere, likely. I don't really like, super predicting world events, but you can feel the tenor of this. You can feel if you've been, keeping your finger on the pulse, you can see that clearly at some point something's got to give. And there's a million and one different ways, like when we're looking at like the future, it's like all these different options within a specific set of potentials. When we're looking at, say, Mars conjunct Uranus, for example, there's like really, really extreme and there's like really, really mellow sets of potentials. And the only thing that we can do is really orient to our highest expression. So, what I would recommend is really looking at where Gemini sits in your chart, what you have going on there, what's opposite in Sagittarius. And if this isn't something that you can do like on your own, we can work out like a mini session if like a full-fledged reading isn't accessible for you at this time. Just like private message me or shoot me an email, because I think that there is a way to like really orient with this well, even though like some of the things that are outside of our realm of control are probably going to get a little messy as the month progresses. And again, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. Hopefully it plays out in a really high octave. But the opportunity here, like the number one suggestion I have for this month is nervous system regulation. And we talk a lot about this in the Jupiter and Leo celestial workshop that I'm posting the replay tomorrow. So all the paid subscribers get instant access to it. If you want access, let me know. I'll send you the details of either how to upgrade or just get it as a one-off. But this is a time where the state of our energy is really important. The electromagnetic field of our heart is really important. So when we are experiencing the privilege of relative safety, one of the most important things that we can do is regulate our nervous system so that we can be acting and making decisions from a regulated place. And if you are struggling with that, allow yourself to be supported. So getting energy work done, taking a deep breath so that we're responding rather than reacting. And then there's like an energy here of like map out your plan. Like Gemini is very creative, Gemini is very curious. There is something here around finding solution, being able to see two sides to an issue and finding harmony there somehow. And so how are you called to take action in this time and really follow this? Then July 9th through August 6th, we have Venus entering Virgo. And during this time in Virgo, Venus is going to be ruled by Mercury because Mercury rules Virgo. And while Venus is in Virgo, Mercury is largely in retrograde. And I think in shadow, like one or the other the entire time. And in Virgo, Venus is technically in her fall because Venus is exalted in Pisces. So Venus is in her fall in Virgo, but it's also Venus in the temple in communion with the divine. So this really emphasizes the importance of devotional work to me. Venus in Virgo is like Venus isn't the most comfortable there, and yet somehow she's still in her element. It's difficult to explain, but the tenor of it is that it's like the nitty gritty work of being in service to the divine, whereas Venus just likes to be in the divine, or yeah, be in the divine. And here she's like, scrubbing floors and like dusting off the altar and carrying water. I think there's a strong element of altars and petition work, especially with your spirit team, and especially if your spirit team includes deities. Slowing down the analytical mind with moon breath. And if you don't know what this is, it's a really simple breathing practice where you just take your right thumb, close your right nostril, and breathe deeply through the left nostril. And this activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which allows us to, respond, overreact, but then also brings us into like that rest and digest space, that space of like, just rather than getting wrapped up in the intellectualizing, the analytical mind of Virgo, where we're like, here is this list of all of these things that we have to do if we're going to get this done. It's like, slow down and remember that we can take things one step at a time, one move at a time, and we don't have to see point A to the finish line. We actually just have to know what our next step is going to be. We just have to be willing to like put our foot forward. And that moon breath really, as a Virgo rising, really helps me with that. And then Mercury is going to be exactly conjunct the sun, which is what we call Mercury cazimi, or in the heart of the sun. It's going to peak on July 12th, but be active from July 9th through July 17th. And I really see this as a time of like securing your emotional boundaries and borders. What were your greatest lessons in the Jupiter and Cancer era, where we were really being like, you know, inundated with lessons around what we want for ourselves, for what's sacred to us, what we are nurturing versus what we're not, what we're willing to experience versus what we're not. And I think that there's a expansion, maturity, and graduation possible here. Like, where where did you where did you do something really, really right in this realm? Where did you do something maybe like kind of wrong that you don't want to repeat? What did you learn from it? Being in this state of reflection and noticing like is there anywhere screaming out in need of repair, whether that's relational or the energetic fortification of our boundaries, whether that's doing some ward work, you know? Um, I'm also recommending mirror work here. Go figure. I will always recommend mirror work. So it's a get reflective. This is the practice that came through is to grab a journal, wash a mirror with some rose water. And if you don't have rose water, maybe like yeah, this sounds so silly, but like even just pulling up a picture of a rose on your phone screen and like letting your water charge on top of the rose image and then washing the mirror down just to allow the water to like capture that high vibrational energy of the rose and doing so intentionally, right? Wiping that down to do some scrying mirror work, making eye contact with yourself, like sweeping your eyes over your aura, sweeping your eyes over your physical body, returning to eye contact over and over, and just seeing what's there. What do I still need to integrate and to know with this Cancer frequency? Jupiter has been there for the last year, and that makes that Cancerian realm really big for us, right? And as Jupiter is leaving, Mercury is conjunct the sun here. It's like a final stand in some way. What's coming up? What is calling out? What is needed? New moon in Cancer, July 14th at 5:43 a.m. This moon is conjunct Mercury retrograde because it's in the dates for the Cazimi. So this is a contemplative saltwater moon. I could see, I mean, and this could just be personal projection. I gotta own that, but I could see this being like a grieving moon, whether it's for this last year or for something really tangible in your life. Like, this is highly reflective energy and highly emotional energy. I'm seeing this as like lunar retreat, like allowing yourself to like really step into this space of letting yourself feel it, journaling it out. And then what we've been talking about for a while now, like at least a couple of months, is the way that like we're really being called to unseat the patriarchy. And one of the ways to do that being through reclaiming the feminine frequency in every body, no matter how you identify, how you show up in the world, what your body looks like, how you were raised, how you were socialized to be, regardless of any of it. Bringing that dark feminine close and reminding that dark feminine aspect of you, that version of ourselves that was like right at home in the no thing blackness of the womb of all being, like that dark feminine essence, and telling her that she's just as worthy as any other frequency. And what we experience when we do that is we stop this pattern of abandoning ourselves in the name of covert patriarchal standard. I think that this is also an opportunity to tend the inner mother wound, whether that's like really tangible experience for you in the relational realm, or if it's on this spiritual like idea of separation, of like banishment, or forced isolation. Like Cancer and Aquarius, I would say, both have this like more like reclusive, like with Cancer, we have like the hermit crab, like, and then like Aquarius, I really feel that like up in the tower, like recluse energy, the hermit. And like in both, it's like, where is that feeding you? And where do you feel that edge of like, you are only retreating, you are only isolating because you're scared of what would happen if you reached out? I feel like that's huge under this moon. So, as you can see, this is a major time for reflection and ritual. And so, I think that it would be really cool to unplug. Um, Let yourself go dark with the moon, explore your emotional realm rather than letting anybody else tell you what to feel in that moment, which is a lot of times what we're doing when we're engaging with technology, is we're looking for an external message, an external stimulus to tell us, okay, how should we be feeling in this moment? And I guess my challenge is on this new moon in Cancer to put that down. Don't put take everything offline, out of your mind. What do you feel in your body, in your fields? And then asking yourself, what is the quality of your inner ocean? Feeling the waters of your body. What's there? What's the imprint? And then the line of inquiry from there is like, do you like that? Do you want to shift that? Do you want to move with that? Do you want to hold that? Um, on and on. Then we're come to a really rare formation. And I had to shout out Aubrey here. If you don't follow her, do. She is one of my favorite astrologers. She has been. I think I found her account first in 2020. And she is really bright. She's written multiple books. And this thread that she posted really got my wheels turning around this formation. I think, like, in my mind, from my own astrological training, I knew that it was a basket, like when I was looking at it. And there was just something about the way that she framed this up that made me like pull up the transits again and like really sit with them in a big way. Because in doing some investigative work, aka Googling, after I read this, I'm like, okay, how long has this been around? This is a term that was coined, like, this is a modern astrologer. This was coined in 2014. And this is so, in this way, we're like living into a moment that is like, I feel we are going to look back on historically in a big way, both as a society and as astrologers. Like, I know a lot of us, like in this particular community, like in inner orbit, we're all some level of spiritual. Like, there's nobody here who's just like, I don't know about spirituality, I don't know if it's for me. It's like, you wouldn't be here. So everybody has this sense of like grappling with the energetic frequencies of what's to come and how to show up best. And in this way, I feel like we're going to be looking back at this month as like a pivotal shift in our expression in this realm, the resonance of the work that we are doing. And that's one of the reasons why I really like honed in our Jupiter and Leo ceremony, is like, it's really important for you to be in your authentic energy, and to really be willing to hold that line because of this shit right here. This is one of the most highly anticipated astrological alignments of our lifetime. Like the buzz in the astrological community has been on top of this for years. And it's truly coded for a massive collective reset and potential global paradigm shift that ripples through every facet of life. And we know that in the dense plane of Earth, this doesn't just look like instant utopia everywhere forever, right? Like we don't hit this point where just like everybody, every single person on Earth agrees to world peace and to never do anything bad for the rest of forever. Do you know what I mean? So there is this complex reorganization that's required, but it's almost this point. It's like this is a term that I was thrown around a lot, like in my earlier astrological career, like maybe around 2019, 2020, of like critical mass, if you will. And I feel like this is really like the moment that people were building towards. So what Barbauld's basket is, it's a collection of aspects that looks like a little basket, right? And this is the actual chart of the day that most of these are exact. Actually they are. I did find a day. I think this was for July 21st. So what we have is Uranus sextile Neptune retrograde, Uranus trine Pluto retrograde, Jupiter trine Neptune retrograde, Jupiter opposite Pluto retrograde, Jupiter sextile Uranus, and Neptune retrograde sextile Pluto retrograde. Essentially, everybody's talking to everybody. All of these major players that all have just recently changed signs in the scope of like if we think of our time, like Pluto first entered Aquarius in 2023. For us, that feels like a while ago. For Pluto, like maybe he blinked, he's just got there. Same with Neptune, Uranus, Jupiter. And the way that they're engaging creates energy. They're in, even though they're not right next to each other, these exact astrological alignments open up a direct line of communication, a direct line of interplanetary communication, of like vibe matching and setting, right? And most of these engagements are actually really supportive. What we have that makes this a little like edgy is the opposition, the handle of the basket, if you will. This is really like what's driving, like what's holding this all together, what's underpinning all of this energy here is this Jupiter Pluto opposition. And so I've kind of like broken these down into like just keywords. So Uranus sextile Neptune is revolutionary visioning. Uranus trine Pluto is transformation by storm. Jupiter trine Neptune is dreaming into being. Jupiter opposite Pluto is alchemical tension. Jupiter sextile Uranus is flash of genius. And Neptune sextile Pluto is reclaiming lucidity. And if you look at this, they all peak within a week of each other. I mean, 10 days. This is a time to like lock in, to be with a daily practice and to orient every single day to what is the highest potential for you in flow with these transits. This is not like this. I want to be clear. This is really exciting. The way that these are engaged suggests that like a time that we've been waiting for is around the corner, and that there's some like stuff we have to do before we can live in the fullest expression of that. And this level of devotional commitment to really be with, just pick at these themes, pick at what you know about Uranus, what you know about Neptune, Pluto, what you know about Leo, Gemini, Aquarius. and be with these themes that arise for you, not just what I'm saying here tonight now, but like what is coming alive, what is top of mind for you when you consider what must be done, when you consider how can I better this, when you consider what would make my day feel better, when you consider what can I do to help my neighbor, what can I do to solve XYZ problem, what comes up, and capture it and keep that information somewhere that you can return to, because we're really getting blueprints for a better way during this time. And this carries us into the sun moving into Leo. And the sun is the ruler of Jupiter for this next year as the ruler of Leo. So, and right when the sun enters Leo, it conjoins Jupiter and authenticity reigns. The next day, Mercury is going to station direct. So the sun moves into Leo into conjunction with Jupiter. And we have this like breakthrough moment. Like we come out almost fully on the other side. I mean, these they linger. I'm like on the other side. This is December 12th. Like, bitch, what? Sorry. But the peak of it, the crescendo, we're in the integration on the other side of July 25th, right? And in this way, the sun and Jupiter are a promise of what's possible, a promise of potential, a promise of optimism. And so I think that this is a really important time to allow yourself to get creative, to express yourself creatively. And remember to let life be fun. I mean, sometimes, like, I don't know, I really I think that one of the best things that I can do with my energy as someone who what I feel about witchcraft is that like when you're constantly tapping the universe on the shoulder and saying, hey, I want this to happen, hey, I want this thing, which is like what I do. I mean, like, I don't know what everybody else is doing with witchcraft, but like, can we pull this off, can we do this thing, like I want to be in this frequency. I want to see people, living into their dreams. I want to see XYZ. When you're constantly gathering the attention of the universe and directing it, I think it's really important to be regulated, because when you freak out, it's like when you are channeling, co-creating with the universe, and then you're also dysregulated, it's like you're creating chaos. And so one of the most important things while the sun is conjunct Jupiter in Leo is, no matter what is going on, setting aside time for play and recreation, because the problems of the world are going to exist. Like there are things that we can do, and we should absolutely take aligned action every single opportunity that we get. And one of the best ways to nourish ourselves is to say yes to some of the desires for fun and fulfillment that our inner child has for us during this season. So as we close out the summer, really being adamant about having time for playful, creative expression, whatever that looks like for you. Even if it's like throwback hits games, like from when you were a child, or activities from when you were a child, or things you just want to try now. Like, even just spending time outside, being with the sun, would be more expansive than thinking that this is a time to like grind and just be devoted to whatever capital M mission you have, and just be like, in that like all work and no play kind of vibe. This is a real reminder. It's making me think of like the otter from the animal spirit deck. Like, it's a real reminder that like life is going to keep lifing. And so one of the best things that we can do is remember that like we deserve to have like a sensorily fulfilling experience of life on earth, the best that we can, as often as we can. And that is actually part of our divine work here. Then shortly after that, the North Node is going to enter Aquarius and the South Node is going to enter Leo, where they'll stay for about 18 months, as they do, July 26th through March 26, 2028. So in this last era, we've had the North Node in Pisces and the South Node in Virgo. So the collective focus shifts from ideation and like planning to like structurally supported change and dawn breaking, the sun rising, right? And so this particular collective destiny quest, no matter where Aquarius sits in your chart, no matter where your personal nodes are, this quest is ruled by Uranus and Gemini and Saturn and Aries the whole time. Actually, now that I'm looking at this, Saturn might tip into Taurus. I can't remember. 2028, there might be some Taurus frequency there with Saturn. I'll have to look back into that. But like for the bulk of this journey, Saturn and Aries, Uranus and Gemini are really like, positioning us for this flight, for this journey into the North Node in Aquarius. And Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian. Aquarius is the sign of revolutionary change. Aquarius is the sign of like rebellion, yeah, but it's like rebel with a cause, like this it's like I feel like Pisces is like utopia and like Aquarius is like the work to get there. And like with that Saturn rulership. So this is the era, this is where we're really putting in like the work to have what we say we want to have. So gather the wealth of the South Node in Leo, fun, play, expression, creativity, and use the energy you receive from that rather than getting stuck there, rather than staying there forever. Use it to launch the change that you wish to see in the world through your work, through the way that you talk to your friends, through the way that you move through the public sphere, through the way that you use your voice, through the way that you use your social media platform, the way that you shop, eat. Like Aquarius is like lifestyle as revolution, and it is all so energized and interwoven with all of those outer planet shifts. And we're going to gather, this is going to be our paid subscriber gathering. It's $8 a month, or there is like a drop-in rate as well. On Thursday, July 23rd, a few days before the North Node enters Aquarius, to orient to this new nodal journey. We'll close out this old chapter well and start to understand exactly where you're being pulled based on your rising sign and your natal nodal journey. So this is going to be a little bit more. You'll get a workbook. We will hopefully, you'll pre-fill in some things before you come would be the ideal, but we can also hold space for that on the call. But at least having a copy of your birth chart, because it's actually going to be some practicum, not just info sharing. And so hopefully my vision is we'll also be able to look at one or two charts on the call so that we can get an example. So I will have like a little application go out to all of our paid subscribers sometime in early July for whoever wants to submit their chart. And that recording would be shared. So it's somebody who's like, willing to be seen by our paid subscribers. Then, we really start to close out the month and we have a full moon in Aquarius that's co-present with the nodes. The nodes are going to be in the late degrees of Aquarius and Leo. I think it's at the 29th degree on this moon, because, the nodes move retrograde through the signs. So we went from 0 degrees Pisces to 29 degrees Aquarius. And this full moon, though, even though they're not exactly conjunct those nodes, it is the first moon on that axis since the shift. It happens like right after. But where the moon is sitting is only 2 degrees away from Pluto in that basket, right? And the sun is actually exactly conjunct Jupiter on the day of this moon. So this moon is in a lot of ways like where I see that tipping point starting to be like actually integrated. Like all the moments leading up to this are like, if you can imagine it like on a roller coaster, like you're up to the top. And then there's like this weightless moment of like the 20s of July where we're like, we see what could happen. And then like on this moon, it's like when we start to like edge over the top of that hill and that moment of like, oh my gosh, here it is. And I think that we get to leverage this moment for the fulfillment of your soul purpose. And we do this by keeping our focus, by receiving support and preparing well for global shifts. What do you need to do like on a spiritual level, on like on a literal level, taking care of your thing, and a lot of times this looks like making sure that you are like being paid for your gifts well, and that like you are positioning yourself well to receive like payment for what you're good at. um not some like, I don't know. I don't want to get super like theoretical, but what I would recommend is having a clear understanding of how you serve your community and a clear pathway for your community to pay you for that service that doesn't involve like a classic job. And whether you make that your full-time grind now is not necessarily the question. It's just having it in your mind. Like, what does it look like if we shift the fabric of community? Will it happen? Maybe. You know what I mean? I just think it's good to be like, do like the mental practice, because that way you won't be caught unaware. Global shifts can be scary. You know what I mean? Like threats of war can be scary. Lack of oil can be scary. So we don't know what this is going to look like, but there's something ahead. And so a lot of this to me, and again, that could be like partially just like my energetic sensitivity, is to me, it's just nervous system work, and ritual alignment. You know what I mean? I feel like the best thing that we can do, as I've said, is take action when there is action to be taken, to orient to the times well. And in those other moments, focusing on regulation and crafting ritual in such a way that we are really activating our highest timeline. Because what's happening here with Uranus and Gemini, Pluto and Aquarius, Neptune and Saturn co-present in Aries, Jupiter now in Leo, is it actually freaking matters where we're at on a vibrational level. And this means that our thoughts become reality quicker than ever. Our intentions become experiences quicker than ever. It's not to say every thought, every word spoken is going to manifest at the most rapid rate you could ever believe. Not necessarily saying that, but our belief, our energy body, our intentions, and the way that we're wielding the power of our words is more important right now in this month of July 2026 than it ever has been before. And so I err on the side of like regimented devotion to your regulation, to your craft, to your vision for what life can look like here, so that you are consistently using that as like a homing device to ground it, because there's so much potential truth. Like there's so much fractalized experience here on this planet at this time, that the best thing that we can do for ourselves and for each other is keep our gaze locked on truth and our like flight path locked on highest potential, if that makes sense. So then we also have like the Jupiter Cazimi coming exact, peaking on July 29th, active into the early days of August. This Jupiter Cazimi lights up the full moon, right? That sun is exactly conjunct the Cazimi, or exactly conjunct Jupiter on the full moon. And it ushers us into a highly sensitive manifestation portal. So kind of what I was saying, like it is a time where if we are scared, we are going to find evidence that we should be scared. And it's not like if you're having a bad time, then it's your fault. But it is like if you could create structures in your life to be able to maybe have this day off work and just be in ritual, you will probably have a better time. And really deeply taking care of your body temple, of your frame of mind, of your energetic being. And as I was feeling into all of this, I was like, okay, this is what we have to do. Is I want to do a manifestation challenge together. This is going to be by donation. So that means that if you need it to be free, it's free. This is going to happen from August 1st through August 8th. We are going to have a couple live calls. It is going to be daily emails, workbooks, journal prompts, etc., readings. This is going to carry us basically from this full moon in Aquarius through the end of the Jupiter Cazimi. So we'll be really working with the guidance of Jupiter and Leo. And then also, I highly recommend the Jupiter and Leo Instant Access course. Again, it becomes Instant Access tomorrow when I get the replay uploaded. But this course, we talk a lot about the electromagnetic field of the heart. And this is going to be like an essential practice. So we'll do more work with that within the manifestation challenge. But essentially using this as a time to like really hone in on the highest potential. And then on Thursday, July 30th, we'll gather for the Astrology of August. And that will kind of be like our kickoff for the manifestation challenge. Oh, that one wasn't supposed to be there. I was making a graphic. So as I was saying, this is the link to get on the wait list for the Lionheart Manifestation Challenge. Lionheart is what I named Jupiter and Leo, the transit. And so this is a time to hone your vision, ritualize your practice, and cast your dreams into reality. And so if you scan this QR code, it will take you to the little waitlist sign up. And then also, this is a reminder that tomorrow night is the kickoff for Celestial Affair. I am writing my next book, and you are invited behind the scenes. We are going to gather for a series of meditations that walk you through building connections with the celestial bodies. So we start off going through the planetary beings. Tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern, we're doing sun and moon meditation to start to intuitively and consciously build relationship with these archetypes rather than engaging with them on solely an intellectual level. This is kind of like underpins my entire body of work. And so this is a book that I'm writing. The meditations are going into a meditation library for the book that I'm writing. And then once the book exists, we journey into a course. And I'm so excited to finally have committed to bringing this through. It's been an idea. I've been writing this book in the ether since like 2019, and it feels like so alive and so now. And I'm so excited to do this. We have some really sweet people already in the container, and this is going to be something that I continue to invite folks into over the course of the summer. So this is a complete sliding scale offer. So you can come in for $1 and just join us for the recorded meditations, and you will be invited to the course at a super deep discount as a thank you for coming along on this ride with me and taking this journey with me. And if you donate more, there's a little donation menu. I have it here on the screen, but if you scan the QR code, it's also on the sales page there. And you can see you just get different perks unlocked. You can get advanced copies of the book, thanked in the acknowledgement, sessions with me, and you can even kind of essentially prepay for the certification course. It's not announced yet, but it is going to run in late 2026. And yeah, this is our journey of the astrology of July. It's quite a ride. And that's one of the reasons that I really wanted to like get the ball rolling on this celestial affair meditation journey as well, is because I feel like we could all use a spiritual community. And like one of the benefits of me being so like hyper fixated on like talking about astrology is like I then get to be in community, and then also like I know that I get to hold space for beautiful beings like y'all to be held in community too. So thank you so much for being on this journey with me. I'm going to stop the share, stop the recording, and we can kind of dive in, see if anybody has any questions. And if you want to come on like with your voice, or just let me know in the chat if you